Well, good Tuesday evening to you. This is Spicer & Company, and I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Erin Elmore in for Lindsay Keith. Sean, we have a lot to get to today.
As always.
But first, the Senate will hold a hearing on the For the People Act. We know it as H.R. 1. They just want to dress it up with a nice name. That's happening tomorrow. This is the bill that the left is portraying as the only hope to save American democracy. But in reality, it's just going to undermine election integrity and probably keep Democrats in power forever. Sean, what are the odds that this is going to pass?
I think this is the question that has kind of been dominating is if the filibuster stays in place, all of these liberal policies are going to continue to pile up as the House sends them over. For right now, I think we're safe. They need 10 Republican votes. They might pick off one or two. The Susan Collins of the world, we saw her vote for Javier Becerra last week and some other votes that have called into question her Republican standing. But I think right now we're safe that this thing is going to stay stalled in the Senate and not move forward. But I'm telling you, Aaron, one of these days, they're going to stop and kill the filibuster because they know too much of this progressive agenda is getting backed up.
Well, let's hope you're wrong. Yeah. But for both of our sakes.
I agree.
Right. So another big headline today. Democrats are eyeing the kitchen sink of progressive goodies in their next big bill. And reports show it comes with a major price tag. Nothing major. Just kidding. A whopping $3 to $4 trillion price tag.
That's unbelievable. On top of the $2 trillion COVID package that we passed last week. And, you know, Aaron, I don't know about you, but when I think of infrastructure, what comes to mind is like roads and bridges, that kind of stuff, right? That's infrastructure, right? But just like the COVID bill wasn't really about COVID.
It was about pork.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was just, we put a nice thing. We call it a COVID bill. Only 9% of it was for COVID, but it's a COVID bill. This is an infrastructure bill, meaning it really doesn't have that much to do about infrastructure, but we're going to call it an infrastructure bill and blow $3 trillion. It includes structural changes, if we want to use infrastructure terms, that President Biden campaigned on, like inequality, racial equity, climate, industrial policy. That's $3 to $4 trillion going to that kind of stuff, not to roads and bridges, which in itself would be a big problem. But all of this is after they did the damage that they did. No one read the first bill. Somehow you think they're going to read this one. And the left really just thinks that money falls from the sky. The idea that we're spending $5 trillion in the course of a week is insane. This is something that China's taken the loans out for, and our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren are going to be paying this off for quite some time.
I mean, the Democrats are literally spending like money grows on trees, and it's really sad and sick to watch because it's going to cause inflation, and there's no way that we're actually going to pay for this. These people have been in Washington too long because they have no concept of what it's like to earn $1 and actually spend $1.
No, I mean, I remember when $1 trillion or a couple $1 trillion was a big deficit.
Yeah.
We spent $5.5 trillion on COVID in the past 24 months. Now we're going to throw another $3 trillion on top of that. This is, I think that people are so used to and getting numb to this that they don't get how big of a hole we're getting dug into.
It's true. And if that wasn't enough, Biden is looking to hike taxes. He's going after Americans who are making more than $400,000 a year. I bet you that gets knocked down to $200,000. I guarantee it.
Oh, they got it.
Of course. And the New York Post says if Democrats get their way, it would, quote, put the total cumulative tax rate on high incomes in the city at more than 63%.
Yeah, well, let's just be clear, because I know sometimes people go, well, $400,000, you know, we do well, but we're not at that level. The problem is that for a lot of these businesses, we talk about this over and over again for different aspects of the economy or legislation, that hits small businesses. Right. So a lot of these LLCs, they file on their individual taxes, but that's what's going to hire another person or buy another thing for the, piece of machinery for a business. So this is a big deal. But the funny thing is, while the president's continuing to put the country more in debt, it seems like the sub-theme, by the way, is that the vice president, Kamala Harris, is getting ready to take over as president. I know this sounds crazy, but a brand new leaked email revealed that the Biden White House has directed all agencies in the government to refer to the administration as the Biden-Harris administration in place of what would normally just be the Biden administration. And the directive apparently came from very high up in the White House communications team. The word Biden-Harris administration now appears on all of the 15 executive departments. Erin, I know a lot of people will say this is petty and this is making a big deal out of it, but this is really unprecedented.
I mean, it's truly unprecedented. It is a big deal, and it's something that should be taken very seriously because it's a way, and President Trump has spoken about this extensively. He really has.
Yeah.
This is a way just to usher out Biden and usher in Harris. They're just sort of warming it up for us.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly the point, right? They're subtly kind of introducing her taking foreign calls. They're introducing the name, the branding, because this is what they anticipate.
And as I briefly mentioned, our former President Trump actually hinted at all of this last night. He said that VP Harris is going to take over, and he spoke to Newsmax last night, and he's bringing up, how with him, the 25th Amendment. Let's take a listen.
A lot of people said when they brought it out, because it takes a while to institute, and when they brought it out, they said they really mean it for Biden, just in case he gets in.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're now trying to figure out, where this 25th Amendment came into play. It started with President Trump, the idea of the cabinet signing this. I don't really think that that's what they're planning for, but they are planning in some way to get Harris in there. Whether or not they're setting it up to run, or whether they don't think Biden's going to make it all 4 years, I don't know. But it's interesting because at the same time they're doing this, the vice president's getting a lot of heat. Check out this Harris. Harris tweeted this picture of herself yesterday landing in Florida. Now, I know you're from down there. It says, "Help is here." Erin, I don't know that exactly comforts the people that live around you in Florida.
Well, wait, I would like to know what the vice president is intending to help the Floridians with. Our economy has been open for a year. Yep. Schools have been open for a year. Floridians are thriving. Florida is a red state. The scariest words that I think Reagan had said in the English language are, "I'm here for the government, I'm here to help." I think Floridians are more likely to say, "Don't tread on me."
If you want to help, stay in Washington.
Yes,
but
please.
Then this other thing that kind of got a lot of attention is she was asked as she was headed off to the trip about visiting the border, and she laughed. Take a listen.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again. Yeah.
I'm not sure that, considering the situation, I know they don't want to call it a crisis. I don't think that that's funny. And I know that is sort of probably a nervous thing, but I don't think she did herself any favors, the administration, any favors, the Biden-Harris administration, by making light of the situation. Either the right or the left probably wasn't exactly happy with that.
No, not today. There's nothing funny about that. In fact, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick had a strong reaction to this laughing on the border crisis. Please take a listen.
Yesterday, there was a little girl that drowned in the river. Kamala Harris must think that's amusing to her. She must think that the sex offenders who are coming into this country, who will be coming to communities all over this country to assault children, is funny to her. This is not a laughing matter for our country or for these people or for future victims.
Yeah, obviously the border, a big deal right now, and making light of it doesn't help, and it doesn't look well, especially when they're getting hammered for not even acknowledging that there's a crisis on the border. A lot of attention is obviously being paid to that. Senator Steve Daines of Montana, he's going to join us after the break to talk about his upcoming trip to the border and what he thinks about what this administration is or is not doing. Stay with us. All eyes continue to be on the border, the crisis that's happening there, all the issues that are surrounding that, the kids coming over the border, sending taxpayers the bill for putting them in hotels. Our next guest is actually joining a Senate delegation on a tour of the Texas-Mexico border on Friday. Joining us now is someone on that tour, Montana Senator Steve Daines. Senator, welcome back.
Everything down in the media, Sean, it's time for us to get down and get a firsthand look. Here's what's going on at the moment. It is harder for a U.S. citizen to get back into the country right now than it is for an illegal immigrant to cross our southern border. Because if you're coming into our country as a U.S. citizen, you need a passport and a COVID test.
Wow. Senator, you've said that Montana is a northern border state with a southern border problem. Can you explain how this crisis impacts your home state and others around the country?
Erin, it's a great question. Think about it. Now, we border Canada in Montana. The reason it's a southern border crisis for us up in Montana is the drugs that are pouring into our state. I just got off the phone with one of our sheriffs in Montana an hour ago. He told me they have 7 Mexican cartel members arrested and in a jail in Montana as we speak. Okay? But they didn't get to complete the gates. So you have miles of wall, then these openings, they were going to complete it with the gates. But when Biden signed the executive order, they can't install the gates. So you have these gaping holes right now in the wall. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the American people should be outraged at what's going on right now because of what President Biden did on January 20th.
Yeah.
And I think the outrage is only unfortunately going to grow, Senator. But you are on the Senate Finance Committee, and the Democrats are looking to push through an avalanche of progressive legislation, including the biggest tax hike in 30 years. Now, this is all under the guise of infrastructure. What are the consequences to taxpayers if the Biden administration continues to spend money that we simply don't have?
Absolutely, Erin. Well, of course, they passed that $1.9 trillion liberal wish list disguised as a COVID relief package. That was a couple of weeks ago. Now they're looking to pass, it looks like a $3 trillion spending bill. That's what we're hearing is coming next. And with that, tax increases. Remember, you go back in history. John F. Kennedy cut taxes, Ronald Reagan cut taxes, President Trump cut taxes, and each time they cut taxes, it unleashed the economy. You kept more money in the pockets of small businesses to invest.
The immigration crisis is having a massive impact, not just on towns and counties that border Mexico, but also throughout many parts of the country. Joining us to give a firsthand look at what they're dealing with, Sheriffs Mark Daniels of Cochise County, Arizona, and Sheriff AJ Lauterbach of Jackson County, Texas. Welcome, Sheriffs.
How are y'all? Thanks for asking.
Good. Hey, Sheriff Lauterbach, let me start with you. What impact, like we keep asking people this, but you guys are on the front lines of this. Yeah, and so what impact does this have on your county and the people that you represent?
Well, I think it's best described as I hear from citizens every day about this on the total fear and concern that they have. And I'll give you an example of something happened yesterday in Pearsall, Texas, which is in Frio County, which is just below San Antonio, Bexar County, Texas, where a abandoned 18-wheeler was opened up by law enforcement, and there were close to 150 or so illegals who scattered throughout the neighborhood.
Wow, unbelievable. Sheriff Daniels, we've heard reports of minors being trafficked throughout the southern border. Are you seeing any of that?
We do, and it's very sad. You know, when you market and you message from this administration that the border is open, and into immigration processing, that opens up the border for vulnerabilities for the cartels and these people coming across. In my county alone, it's $6,000 a head to come across my county by the cartels, and that's servant lifestyle. That's modern day slavery at its worst.
So I'm going to ask you both the same question here. First to you, Sheriff Lauterbach. What can be done? We have the federal government that's basically working against us and working against our citizens and working against law enforcement. What can we possibly do to rectify this situation and protect the United States of America?
Searching every day, getting the information out. You have an open border concept. And this didn't happen overnight. This has been a planned, organized, strategic move to completely dismantle the INA, the Immigration Naturalization Act, and create an open border, which is a concept that has been around for quite some time.
Democrats are now trying to steal a Republican seat in the House of Representatives. They are putting the wheels in motion. We're going to talk about the close race that exists in Iowa next and what Democrats are trying to take. All right, last November's congressional race in Iowa's 2nd District, we've talked about this before, is one of the closest in history. Republican Marionette Miller Meeks beat Democrat Rita Hart by 6 votes. It's doing whatever it takes to sell the narrative that they want to promote. But there was one glaring error in what she did, and we're going to tell it to you next. I know this is going to come as a big shocker to you, Erin. There's not a ton of journalistic integrity over there at MSNBC.
No.
One of their, yeah, it's true. One of their analysts actually tweeted this picture of a crowded Miami beach, calling the beachgoers COVIDiots, with another MSNBC contributor that piled on. The only problem is that picture is from 2019. Under President Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Thank you, Shaun Spicer and Erin.
It's the March Madness in me that's going.
Well, I don't know anything about March Madness, but I do know that you are the good doctor. If Jill can be a doctor, you're a lifesaver as well, Dr. Gorka. It's always a pleasure to have you. So you've seen the picture, okay? It's people reveling in Miami, having a good old time. And of course, over to MSNBC, oh, the shame. They're COVIDiots. But like we said, this photo is from 2019, but there's no contrition. There's no remorse. Do you find it dangerous that these mainstream media hacks, if you will, are just putting out these pictures and not apologizing, and the American people just are forced to deal with it?
No, look, let's say we're real. Let's say that was a real photograph from now. It still is a problem. Why? Because I didn't see one shaming tweet from anybody in the mainstream media about Black Lives Matter, about the BLM protests. I didn't see anything about, oh, hang on a second, they're not cages, they're pods, but there's 400 illegal immigrants squashed into a place that isn't a detention facility now. It is an influx center. These people are such propagandists. Yep. Every single time when I come on the show, I just have to reiterate, we can't call them journalists.
No.
The truth doesn't matter. It's always narrative, narrative, narrative. And can I turn this story into a political weapon?
Yes. Absolutely. And that happened when Biden won, the presidency. You saw people outside dancing in the streets, packed together like sardines. But that doesn't spread COVID. That's completely okay. But switching gears a little, Dr. Gorka, Steve Krakauer of Fourth Watch did an interesting comparative analysis of how CNN covered Trump's West Point ramp/handrail issue versus Biden's triple stairfall on Air Force One. Take a listen, then I want your feedback.
President Trump is not known for being athletic, so maybe he just has a hard time going down a gently sloping ramp.
There's no indication, however, that the ramp was slippery on a clear, sunny day.
Trump and his allies have suggested that Biden has lost a step, and they have done so not very subtly. But it is absolutely harder to make that case when we see video like this, where the president himself...
What to say about that?
Straining for a word. Can we just have a reality check? Donald Trump gave 20-minute presses on his way to Marine One, standing on the South Lawn, giving impromptu press briefings. We are in day 63 of this administration, and we still don't have a press conference from sleepy, creepy Biden.
Report says that the current generation has gained the most weight during the COVID lockdown. Can you guess which generation?
Plus, one company is giving away a sweet treat all year, but only if you're vaccinated. We'll discuss next. Don't go away.
Touchy subject here. If you avoid stepping on the scale during the COVID lockdown, you're not alone. Gaining the COVID-15, it's like the adult version of the
freshman 15.
That's right, freshman 15. It's very real. And a recent study showed that 61% of American adults reported undesired weight gain.
That's a lot. That's a high percentage.
I agree. The older you get, the harder it becomes to take it off, is what I've been told. But the worst culprit when it comes to the pandemic weight gain is millennials. That's right. They come in, check this out, at a whopping 41 pounds on average.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you notice that on a Zoom, I'll tell you that.
And the camera adds more than 10 pounds apparently on those millennial Zooms.
Yeah, that's why we only use one camera.
Wait, well, what bothers me about this is our government is not saying, hey, we're in lockdown, let's go out, let's exercise. Instead, they've closed our gyms, closed our walking trails, closed our parks, and those are the things that will get us healthy.
Yeah, it's amazing. You've seen depression creep up, suicide rates creep up. Alcohol creep up. Yeah, actually. I mean, it's in all the wrong things. It's funny, though. It's totally counterintuitive to this, but it was announced yesterday. You alluded to this a moment ago. Krispy Kreme came out with this big announcement. It said that they're dangling a donut, a Boston cream, or whatever you want, if you go get vaccinated, right? So they're going to give you a free donut if you get vaccinated.
We're going to do something healthy.
Yeah, go get something very healthy. And by the way, it's not, I'm sorry, I undersold this. It's not just a free donut. It's not like, hey, here's a donut. You get one every day of the year if you can show that vaccination card. One a year.
That's a lot. I don't think this is the right answer because
of course it's not.
We need, and by the way, we need to not have heart disease and keep our young people healthy. And this is just the wrong message. I also think that although the vaccine is very helpful to a lot of people, if we just promoted getting a healthier lifestyle, perhaps COVID numbers would be on the decline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that dangling a donut in front of somebody and saying, hey, do something healthy and then we'll, get you unhealthy is probably the smartest overall thing. I think you're right. The government should be promoting good health, getting out there and walking and doing all this stuff to remind people what they're missing out of, especially, as you point out correctly, because they're locking down, in many cases, the gyms and the places where people would normally go out and exercise.
Have you ever had a Krispy Kreme?
Oh, absolutely.
I never have, so.
You've never had one?
No,
it's worth the vaccination shot.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show.
Hey, thanks for being part of our company. We look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.